Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started, and just want to say welcome to everybody that made it here today. And going to talk about a few things that I believe are going to be vital to your success in life. And, I'm not a traditional speaker. I know a lot of times you have career days in high school. Any of y'all ever had career days in high school at your schools? Just a few. Most of the speakers come in and they talk about their profession. Well, if you're not in that profession, you don't care. Your attention is not going to be on what they're talking about. And I like to talk about what it's going to take for you to succeed in whatever you do in life, be it a, athlete, business owner, employee, whatever you're going to do. And one of the things I like to start off talking about first and foremost, more than anything, is your attitude. How many of you know people with bad attitudes? I can raise my hand. As I was growing up, I said, well, as we get older, their attitudes will change. Their attitudes got worse. And, how many of you know people that wake up on the wrong side of the bed every morning? Every day they wake up, every day you see them, they come in, they got bad attitudes. It doesn't matter what. How many of you don't like being around that person? Oh, the rest of you like being around them?
No. I'm that person.
You that person? Oh, don't tell anybody. No, don't tell anybody you're that person. But, our attitudes are a direct reflection on how we feel about ourselves. How many of you ever heard the term self-image? Your self-image is a direct reflection of your attitude. And one of the things that shows a person with a low or poor self-image is the way you come out of your house. I'm going to be honest, I really like when I come and speak to you guys because you guys are always dressed up. I don't like going out in public seeing these guys with their pants down to their knees. And now the new trend is, I was at the grocery store the other day and saw a lady come out in her robe and pajamas. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But that's a person who has a low or poor self-image. You don't want to walk around like that because people automatically draw conclusions of you when they see you come out of your house like that. How would you guys feel if I showed up in some flip-flops, t-shirt, and shorts today? Would my words carry any credibility with you guys? Not really. What if I had my pants hanging around my waist, around my butt? Would that have any credibility with you guys? Who is this guy? No. It wouldn't carry too much credibility. Now, I normally have a suit on, but like I said, I put on 60 pounds and my wife told me yesterday, boy, you need to go buy a suit. I was like, no, forget that, because I can't fit the rest of them. But once the doctor gives me a release, I'm going to get back in shape. And, that's one of my goals, to get back in shape so I get back in my suits. And so, we have to make sure we're on top of those things. We all need to have some goals. And most of the times we don't set goals because our attitudes are bad. You're going to notice I'm going to stay on attitude a whole lot before I get into some other things. But our attitudes are vitally important. When you have a poor attitude, you also have low expectations of yourself. You guys have high expectations, right? You guys participate in other extracurricular activities and other events and, things like that because you want to excel, right? It feels good to win, doesn't it? How many of you ever heard of Vince Lombardi? Okay, one guy, figures, two guys. All right. Normally, I don't expect the young ladies to say that because Vince Lombardi was a football coach. But Vince Lombardi said there's no room in his life for second place. He said second place is a game for losers. And I want to hang around winners all the time. They don't win all the time, but they're striving to win. How many of you like winners? How many of you are following the Super Bowl right now? 2 people. Man, you guys are kidding. What do you guys like to do? What do you guys follow?
College football.
College football. Florida State, huh? All righty. Alabama. Sorry they didn't play for the championship this year, but it's okay. So you a big Cam Newton fan?
Actually, I do like Cam Newton.
Okay. He didn't go to Tide, but, Auburn. But, people have low expectations when their attitude is bad. It reminds me of a guy. He was about 30 years old, and he was at a carnival. And he was walking around, and he had felt life hadn't been treating him fairly up to that point. And so he saw a sign that said, "Fortune's told, $10." Now, I don't believe in fortune tellers, but, just go with the story. So he went in and he paid the lady his $10. And she told him, "You're going to be broke, disgusted, and despondent until age 45. And he hung his head because, he was like, man, a whole nother 15 years, I'm going to be broke and disgusted. And so he started to walk out the door with his head hung low. And then a light bulb went off in his head. And he turned around and went back to say, well, he got excited because he said, well, she says until age 45, so let me go back and ask her what's going to happen after age 45. And he goes back, he said, well, what's going to happen at age 45? She said, you'll be used to it. And so we don't want to get used to low expectations in our life. A lot of times, you can see people my age, I'm 21, and you guys know that's a lie, right? 21 times 2. But anyway, you will see guys my age, a little bit younger. Sometimes when they hit the age 35, they start settling for life, settling for what life has given them. I wake up with a new dream every day. Benjamin Franklin said most men die at age 25, but they don't put the body in the ground until age 65 because the body has to catch up with the mind. And that's basically saying most people die on the inside at age 25. That's unfortunate. And I talk to a lot of them. It hurts my brain, to see somebody that lives a life with no vision or dreams or goals to accomplish. If you're not setting some type of goal for yourself, you're automatically going backwards. But most people have bad attitudes. And the only way you're going to change your bad attitudes, first you have to start associating with people that have positive and good attitudes. You have to do that daily. It's like taking a bath. You have to immerse yourself in some positive thinking books. And, one of the books I'd like to recommend up front is The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. It's probably not in print anymore, but you can find it from some of the resellers. I buy books all the time. I have a goal this year to read one positive book a week. Now, that's outside of all the other books that I read per week. Because I read books on current events, I read books on relationships, I read books on marriage, I read all that type of stuff. But one of my goals this year is to read one positive book per week. And I wish somebody would have told me about this type of stuff when I was in school. Because society is conditioning us to be negative. Have y'all recognized that? We're ridiculed in school. If you have some classmates that make A's and B's all the time, they ridicule you for making C's and D's every now and then. I was an honor student in high school, and I was called a dummy of the honor students. Because I always challenged what the teachers were teaching. I wasn't lock, stock, and barrel falling in line with the rest of my classmates. I always challenged stuff. And you know why? Because even back then, after school, if I had some time, I would go to the library and check out books. So the courses that interested me, I would go to the library and check those books out. So I was getting a little bit different perspective on some of the things that were being taught in class. And so my classmates were negative toward me because that Myron just dumb. Look at him. Now, I wasn't making C's and D's. I was making A's and B's just like them. My economics professor at U of H told me that I challenged him too much. And he failed me. And he told me, I'm going to fail you this semester because you're going to take my class over and you're going to do what the syllabus calls for. I don't like you challenging me. Now, I didn't know what to do at the time other than take the class over. But I was upset that somebody told me I wasn't free to think on my own. Y'all follow what I'm saying? And so even my economics teacher in high school said the same thing too. And so we're conditioned to be negative. If we're athletes, if we make a bad play during a game or something, our teammates ridicule us. Our coaches fuss at us and they don't use proper language a lot of times. You guys have heard a lot. Have you guys heard coaches talk to their players sometime? It's not the most positive conversation, is it? And so, we're ridiculed for making a bad play in a game. We're ridiculed for making a bad grade on a test or something. So society's conditioning us to be negative. Even the television conditions us to be negative. We'll look at the news. We'll look at the 6 o'clock news. I don't watch news in my house, just so y'all know, because I don't like the negativity coming into my brain. I don't take the newspaper at my house because it's all negative. But a lot of us will go home and we'll watch the 6 o'clock news or 5 o'clock news, whatever it is, and then we'll watch the news again at 10. Okay, I'm going to tell you, for the rest of your life, the only thing that's going to change between 5 and 6 and the 10 o'clock news is 2 more people going to get killed. Okay? Nothing else is going to change after that. Do y'all even realize that the weather person is negative? Had y'all ever thought about that? They'll come on the news and tell you tomorrow's going to be a 20% chance of rain. Why didn't they tell you it's going to be an 80% chance of sun? You know, what were your attitudes here just recently? What were your attitudes when they told you it was going to be a chance for ice on the road yesterday?
I was happy.
You were happy. But you have to make that day up at some point in the year, right? Yeah, either Good Friday or Memorial Day. You're going to make that day up. Okay, here come all my guys now. Typical. Guys are late, you know. But the weather person conditions us to be negative. And, you know, if the weather person knew what they were talking about, look at this. They come on the news on Sunday, and they'll give you a 7-day forecast, right? Well, if they give you a 7-day forecast, why do they need to work the other 6 days of the week? Because they don't know what they're talking about. So we're conditioned to be negative all the time. Here's a chair up here if you need it. There's one chair if you need it. Okay. And so each one of us has 40 to 50,000 thoughts per day, and over 80% of those thoughts are negative. Y'all realize that? Our mind automatically conditions itself to go toward the negative. You know, it's just like as positive as I am, sitting up in a hospital room all those times, you know, that tends to weigh on your conscience a little bit. Y'all follow what I'm saying? You're thinking negative thoughts. You know, they put you under those rugs and put you to sleep during an operation, and you're, man, am I going to wake up from this? And I mean, we're talking about me being positive all the time. So can you imagine what somebody who hasn't programmed their brain to be positive, what they're dealing with? A lot of times our attitudes are bad because of the people we associate with. You know, I remember some of the guys I was in high school with, you know, these guys weren't really on the up and up. I mean, these guys had side careers in high school, if you follow what I'm saying. And one of those guys is dead now. One's permanently blind. And, you know, a couple of them got into a high-speed car chase with the U.S. Marshals because they were doing armed robberies. These are the guys I ran with. You know, so our associations are important. You know, we like to choose associations that make us feel good, right? Yeah. That's how most of us are because we're emotional beings. We have to be a little bit more analytical a lot of times. I played football, so guess who I hung out with? Football players. I ran track, hung out during track season. I hung with the track players, track runners. I took woodshop in high school. Anybody in here took woodshop? 2, 3, 4 people. All righty. Y'all need to move up front. No, just kidding. But in woodshop, I made a project 3 years of my high school career, and I took it to state each year. You know, so guess who I hung out with when we were getting ready for competition? Guys in woodshop. So we hang out with people a lot of times that we feel like we have a lot in common with, right? And a lot of times we need to change those associations because a lot of times those associations aren't good to us. And so we go through life and would say, hey, bless you. And so we go through life and we keep hanging out with the same people that make us feel good. I was listening to Les Brown the other day. Any of you guys familiar with Les Brown? Motivational speaker, 1, 2 people. And Les Brown said, if you hang out with 9 broke people, pretty soon it's going to be 10. So he's basically saying, you know, the people that we hang with influence our lives, whether we recognize it or not. You know, when we look at our 5 closest associations, there are a lot more similarities than there are differences. And so we don't want to analyze those relationships for the simple fact, if we do, we might have to cut this person loose. It's comfortable being with the people we hanging with, right? You know, it's comfortable being with the people, you know, a lot of times, you know, after middle school, we change those associations because we go to different schools. And, you know, when I look back on my growing up time, I don't really hang out with anybody I grew up with. 'Cause on the street I grew up on, all of the guys were pretty much the same age. A couple of guys were older, but all of us hung together. And so all of us were in the same grade. And when it came time to move to the 9th grade from the 8th grade, I was the only one that graduated. And so guess what happened to those relationships when I graduated and they didn't? Our whole relationship changed. A couple of years later, when I was in high school, I got home one night after a football game, and my dad asked me where I had been. And I told him, well, you know, we had a game tonight. And he told me Houston police had been by the house looking for me. And I didn't know what for. He said, they said you were shooting at a school bus. And I said, well, no, that's, first of all, I don't have a gun. Secondly, you know, I was at the school all day. He said, well, they say that's where it happened, up at the school. I found out years later that one of the guys that grew up on the street with me had told the police that about me. Now, this was a guy who had grew up from elementary all the way up to that point. But you know why he did that? There was a sense of jealousy because I had went on and created new relationships in my life. And so right now, today, there's really only one guy that I maintain a relationship out of high school, and one guy I maintain a relationship with out of college. And the guy in college, I gravitated to him real quick because he had an excellent attitude. He thought he could whoop everybody. And he normally bagged it up. And I remember one night we were going to a party on campus. And there was a guy from Sweeney, Texas, Big Nate. And Nate was about 280 pounds, about 6'3". When I got to U of H, I weighed 195 pounds. My buddy Mud, that was his nickname, Mud, he weighed 200. And Nate had a cousin visit him one time. And Nate was trying to show out in front of his cousin. And, you know, he knew Mud thought he could whoop everybody. So he's going to try Mud that night. And so we're trying to ignore him and go ahead and go to the party. And Nate kept messing with him. And Mud said, Nate, leave me alone. And Nate kept on. And next thing I know, he had Big Nate up in the air body slamming him. But I liked his attitude. Y'all follow what I'm saying? You know, he had the attitude of a champion and of a winner. And that's who I like to hang around with. The reason I chose U of H, they had just come back from the Aloha Bowl. Even though they lost the game, I said, man, that's a way to go to Hawaii. And then when I decided to go to U of H, the university got hit with bowl restrictions because of violation. So I didn't get to go to a bowl game. But it's okay. I wanted to be associated with winners. And, you know, I don't really follow a whole lot of sports now because I think they've watered the game down, you know, to make it more feasible, you know, for the people that never played anything. But, you know, I really hadn't watched a full athletic event since TCU played Boise State a few years ago in that bowl game. My attention span's too short. I can't sit there for 3.5 hours and watch anything on TV. But, you know, we have to make sure our associations are good. And, you know, if you really want to test your associations, go to the people closest to you and say, hey, you know, these are my goals for the next year. And just sit back and wait for their response. And if somebody is a real friend, they're going to encourage you. But if somebody plans on doing nothing, they're going to discourage you. You got to cut them loose. You know, it's unfortunate, but you have to cut them loose. And so we don't want to cut our association loose because it feels good. You know what I mean? And, you know, I tell people all the time, you know, I've been married 14 years. And if I don't feel like loving my wife, I would have left her a long time ago. Love is a decision. It's not a feeling. And see, right now in school, especially you young ladies, love is a feeling. Right? Now, I see some heads going down now, so some of y'all know what I'm talking about. But make sure your association is good. Make sure you're keeping an attitude of positivity at all times. You know, it takes 21 days to develop a new habit. Have any of y'all heard that before? No? Okay. Well, it takes 21 days to develop a new habit. So for the next 21 days, I'm giving y'all a homework assignment, but I'm not going to check it. Only you can check it for yourself. For the next 21 days, find you a positive book and maybe just read 10 or 15 minutes out of that book per day. You'll probably finish the book within a 21-day period. And just notice as you immerse yourself in that book how your whole attitude changes. Now, the thing that's going to happen in that situation, after 21 days, you'll be to develop a new habit. And after developing that new habit, more and more people are going to want to gravitate to you. And see, when I wake up every morning, some of the things I say to myself is I have a positive attitude. I have a positive self-image. I believe in myself and my abilities. I'm already programming myself for the day to be positive. I'm looking to encourage and uplift somebody before the day is over with. And so people ask all the time, why do people gravitate towards me? It's because I've already mentally programmed myself to be a positive influence in that person's life that day. And so what we don't recognize is our brain actually sends out signals to like-minded people. Have you ever heard that? Y'all hadn't heard that? Okay. But 21 days. Now, after 21 days, if you don't like the new you, just go back to who you were. Now, guess what's going to happen at that point? Nobody else is going to like you anymore. Because they're going to say, what happened to this nice, positive person that I've been dealing with for the last 3 weeks? And so, we have to make sure, we're trying to be a ray of hope. All right? Don't wake up on the wrong side of the bed in the morning anymore. But, be a ray of sunshine to everybody that you encounter. That's one of the things. And see, our attitudes and our associations also determine what type of goals we set for ourselves. How many of you have goals in here? How many of you have written them down? A few. Well, if you want to accomplish your goals, write them down. Revisit them every day. Right now, I'm reading this book right now, The Success System That Never Fails. And one of the things he's saying in his book is, do it now. Tell yourself that 50 times in the morning, 50 times before you go to bed. Do it now. Because we're creatures of habit and we have a tendency to procrastinate. How many of you have that habit? Procrastination. I do. How many of you have laziness? I do. I wake up almost every day not wanting to do anything. Right now, I'm actually working on writing an ebook. One of my mentors told me I needed to write an ebook. And I've been putting it off for so long, but I said, well, maybe that's why I keep having these surgeries so I can't move so I can write this book. So you have to look for the positive in everything. You know what I mean? And when one of my visits in the hospital, everybody thought Mr. Jones is so positive. I had books in the hospital with me. All the nurses on the hall would come into my room every day because they wanted me to give them an encouraging word, so they could take that the rest of the day. And I'm not saying I'm great. I just read great information. Even the nurses that weren't taking care of me, they were going back telling them they need to come and get a word of encouragement from Mr. Jones. And that's just some of the things that's going on. When you striving to be a uplifter and be positive, people want to know what you have and they want to have some of what you have. They might not want all of it, but they want some of it because we all want to feel good, right? Because one of the nurses told me, she said, we really appreciate a patient like you. I said, well, I don't appreciate being here. She said, no, what I'm saying is most of the patients that we deal with, they come in with bad and negative attitudes because of whatever illness they're dealing with, and they treat us like it's our fault that they're here, not realizing we're here to help them. And they said, we appreciate you. And, I had to tell about the young lady that stayed across the hall from me the first time. I said, could you talk to her nurse for me? And this has nothing to do with my talk, but, just part of life. They had me on crutches doing rehab and going down the hall, and they had me on walkers and all that. And every time I would, go out my door, the young lady across the hall never had any clothes on. And I asked my nurse, I said, can you tell her nurse to ask her to put some clothes on? I said, I'm not at that point in my life anymore. But, it's just crazy things. And this last time I was in the hospital, the guy that was in the room next to me, they cut off half of his foot. And every night about 3:30, they would bring him medication, and they had to call the police and security because he would start resisting and fighting and screaming. I mean, every night at 3:30, I knew I was going to get woke up by my next door neighbor. Because things like that really change and impact your life. And if we haven't prepared to be positive about things that happen, guess how we're going to respond? We're going to respond negatively too. So, we need to have some goals. We need to have short-term goals. Your seniors have some goals that all of you need to have goals to finish up this semester. But your seniors need to have some goals about what you're going to do, the rest of the school year before you decide to go to college or trade school or the military or whatever you're going to do. And your juniors need it, and sophomores and freshmen. Out of the rest of y'all that came in, what classifications are y'all? What seniors are back there at the tables? Any juniors? Sophomores? Freshmen? No fresh, so we still only have one freshman in there. All right. I'm not going to tell you who it is. But you know, you need to be planning short-term goals, which is normally anywhere from it can start out maybe 3 to 6 months. And then some midterm goals can be maybe 6 months to 2 years, 6 months to 5 years. And then have you some long-term goals. You know, and I know you guys are not thinking about it now, but, you know, start thinking about what do you want your life to stand for. You know, set some goals. You know, how do I want to be impact on society? You know, a lot of times people are always worried about just themselves. We're never going to achieve greatness by ourselves. We all need somebody. Y'all understand that? You know, I've met a lot of people over the years that they give all the credit to all their success to themselves. Kind of reminds me of Carmelo Anthony when he was declared for the NBA draft, and they interviewed him after they won that championship game. Did anybody see it? That year Syracuse won the championship, the college championship, when Carmelo Anthony was there? You guys are no fun this morning. Well, they interviewed Carmelo Anthony after the game, and he was talking about, you know, who he wanted to thank, and you know, he said, you know, I thank the teammates and, you know, my coaches. He said, but above all, I want to thank more than anybody myself. Something's wrong with that ego, but you know, we're not here to talk about ego today. But you know, you can't achieve greatness by yourself. Your success is only going to be limited when it's only you that's trying to do it. You recognize that? You know, you don't look at it this way, but y'all actually have a success team. Your teachers, your counselors, parents, siblings, you know, the people that are in charge of this organization here, FBLA. These folks don't get paid for working with you guys. Y'all recognize that? These folks are volunteering their time, just like we volunteer our time. And so these people are doing it because they want to see you succeed. How many of you are thinking about being business owners? Anybody? A few of you. Okay. If y'all don't mind me asking, what type of business? Restaurant. I see you back there. Nurse practitioner. Nobody else want to share? Okay. Okay, good deal. What about the rest of you guys? You know, because this is Future Business Leaders of America. You guys are looking for leadership in some type of aspect in your life. You know, when I was in school, I was what they call Mr. Worthing. And, you know, basically we're an ambassador for the school, and we go out and, you know, represent our school. And it's just a way for me to have to spend money on a whole bunch of tuxedos and all that stuff. But, you know, I was in a leadership position. And the only reason I ran for Mr. Worthing because I had run for class president, I had run for student body president, I had run for some other office, and I had always lost to girls. And I said, man, I'm tired of losing to these girls. Let me run for something a girl can't beat me in. So that's the only reason I really ran for Mr. Worthing, because a girl couldn't run for Mr. Worthing. And I know now that I'm not going to even get on that, but they have some different things going on today, but that's the only reason I ran. But I was talking to my woodshop teacher, and he and I still have a great relationship to this day. He was like a father figure to me in school. You know, I grew up with my dad, but, you know, my woodshop teacher was like a father figure to me. And he told me, he said, Myron, when I met you in the 9th grade, you already had leadership in you. He said, I knew you were different than the rest of the kids. And so, you know, other people will recognize it. And so we go forward with that. But, you know, set you some goals. And if you don't accomplish a goal, you know, you didn't miss your goal. My mentor always tells me, you never miss your goal, you only miss your timing. Because if you set a goal to do something by a certain date and you don't hit it that certain date, do you give up on your goal? No, you put a new date on it. Like my goal right now is to, once the doctor gives me the okay, because he's talking about cutting on my foot again. But once the doctor gives me the okay, my goal is to get this weight back off of me. You know, when I went in the hospital for my first surgery, I weighed 209 pounds. And you can imagine how I feel right about now. But that's the major goal for me right now, is to get the weight back off me. And like I said, I can't fit in my suits. And y'all should have saw me trying to get dressed this morning. But set a goal for your life. Set a goal for your life financially. If you want to make $5 million a year, set that goal for yourself. Don't let anybody tell you can't accomplish that goal. A person that tells you can't accomplish that goal, get away from them real quick. There's no limit on how much money you can make. Set a goal for your life health-wise. Set a goal for your life as far as the type of relationships you want to have in your life. And so, there are a lot of other things you can set. Set a goal for your spiritual life. Set all those type goals. And, you might not accomplish all of them at one time, but you will accomplish. Y'all recognize that? So go after your goals. Don't let anybody tell you to stop chasing your goals and dreams. A lot of guys, as I mentioned earlier, when most people hit age 35 and above, they start settling for life. They feel like they've reached a peak in their life. And as young guys, we normally think about fast cars. How many guys like fast cars? 3 hands? Come on, you guys kid me. Okay, I need to have you come up here and sit with me. But I remember at age 18, I saw it used to be a show on TV called Magnum P.I. And I know most of you guys probably don't have any idea what that is. But Magnum P.I. was a private investigator. He drove a Ferrari. And I just fell in love with the Ferrari from that day forward. And then the show Miami Vice came on, and they drove a Ferrari Testarossa. And then I saw the Ferrari F40 and the Ferrari F50. And I've looked at all of the cars that have come through the Ferrari line since that time. And guess what I'm passionate about as far as a vehicle is concerned? A Ferrari. A guy I used to work with, he couldn't understand why I was obsessed with Ferrari. He said, man, why you want to spend that type of money on that car? Just get your Acura NSX. You saved you about $150,000 and it looks just like the Ferrari. I said, why do I want to go through life buying something that looks like what I want? And see, that's somebody that's discouraging you from your dreams, right? Don't put a price tag on your dreams. See, a lot of times we'll go through life and, a lot of times what we'll see people do, and you probably know them, but you just hadn't paid attention, is we'll have great big dreams, but our income circle is this big. So instead, what most people do, instead of figuring out ways to expand their income circle, they'll find ways to shrink their dreams. Y'all follow what I'm saying? At age 18, I like the Ferrari. At age 35, I'll be talking about how many miles I got on my Ford Taurus. You follow what I'm saying? And when I go around family functions, I sit there and I listen to my older uncles and cousins talk about stuff like that. And they'll be talking about, man, have you seen a new Ford Taurus? I'm like, dude, that's an old man car. What they talking about? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I'm just saying, look at how our dreams change. We hear about a lot of people taking a cruise, maybe to Cozumel, Cancun, or the Bahamas or somewhere. Y'all familiar with those, right? How many of y'all realize there's a world cruise out there where you can take a cruise around the whole world? You're gone 6 months out of the year, and you visit 140 different countries. How many of you heard of that? Exactly. The reason we haven't heard of it for the most part is because per person minimum is about $80,000. And that's to get one of the small cabins, about the size of that door. But for about $200,000 a person, you can get a suite on that ship that's about 2,000 square feet, which is the size of most of your homes. Can you realize having a suite on a ship for 6 months out of the year that's the size of your house with a 24-hour butler? Now, if you're going to visit 140 countries and it's going to cost you $200,000 per person to take this trip, what kind of money you think you need to have in your pocket to shop? So the reason we're not privy to this information is because most of the people we know can't afford to take that trip. So why talk about something I'm not able to do, right? So when you start setting big dreams for yourself and you start expanding your mind, one of my mentors, he's passed on now, But he told me, he said, the mind is just like a rubber band. Once you stretch it, it can never go back to the original size. And I mean, if your dreams aren't gnawing at you every day for not accomplishing, that might not really be your dream. So you might need to rethink that and set a new dream and find something that you're passionate about. And young men, that don't mean girls, okay? But make sure your dreams are grand. Make sure your goals are big. And anytime you accomplish one goal, immediately set a new goal. Because if you don't, you're going to automatically start going backwards. See, what most people do, they accomplish something and they sit there and they pride themselves on accomplishing that thing. Y'all know people like that? They keep reliving that old stuff instead of setting a new dream. And they live in the past for so long that it passes them by. Life just keeps moving forward. And if you're not moving forward, you're automatically moving backwards. There's no such thing as standing still. We have to always be progressively seeking to do better. I sat down with my sisters. My sister, I have a baby sister. She lives up in Seattle. And my other two sisters are here. And so my baby sister only visits once a year. And she comes down for 2 weeks during the Christmas holiday season. And so we went out to lunch this year. And I did something that I've never done before in the presence of all three of my sisters. And I didn't know I was going to do this. It just popped up. I asked them, what are your goals for this year? And I wanted to be the last one because I didn't want to say things to make my sisters feel like, we need to try to meet up to what Myron's doing. I wanted to hear what each one of them had on their agenda for this year. And, so each one of them talked. And then when it came to me and I talked about my goals were in such specific detail that they're looking at me crazy. And they started laughing. And I said, well, what's funny? They say, man, we've never heard anybody detail their goals like that before. And we have to be specific. And that's why I made that statement. We have to be specific about the goals we're going after. Because general goals are not going to motivate us. A general goal is saying, I want to make a lot of money. Well, a lot of money is relative. If you only made $10,000 a year, $20,000 a year could be a lot of money. Y'all follow what I'm saying? So you have to be specific. I remember, when I decided to choose my major in college, I was going to be a chemical engineer. I didn't care about math and science. But y'all know why I wanted to be a chemical engineer? Because I looked at every 4-year degree plan, when I was in high school, and chemical engineers made the most money. And that's the only reason I chose it. And then I thought about being an attorney. And I said, well, no, my morals are too strong to do something like that. And then I thought about it. I said, well, I do have the talent and ability. I could possibly play in the NFL. But that didn't happen. Some things happened in college and changed all of that. But, the only reason I chose to go after the chemical engineering degree because they were making the most money straight out of college. Now, was that something that was going to make me happy? No. It'll make me happy for a little while, and after a while you get bored with it. Because I'm going to tell you, whatever you choose to do with your life, if it's not really what you want to do, it's not what's inside of you, you're going to get frustrated about 3 to 5 years down the road. Because you're not going to be realizing your purpose. You're not going to be realizing your vision. And so we need to make sure we're going after. Don't choose a degree plan because your parents want you to do that. And I know a lot of you probably have those issues with your parents. Your parents a lot of times tell you what to pursue, right? And so it's not your parents' life. You have to live that life after college. And so, sometimes people, they'll still go and pursue a degree plan, but their heart's just not in it. I was seeing a dermatologist a few years back, and this guy was so frustrated being a doctor. And I say, Dr. Frost, why did you choose to be a doctor then if this is not what you're passionate about? Well, that's what my mom and dad wanted me to do. I said, are you happy, Dr. Frost? He said, not at all. I said, what is it that you want to do? Now, I'm his patient and counseling him. And I say, what is it you want to do with your life? He said, well, I really want to go to acting school and become an actor. I said, Dr. Frost, you got to get out of here, man. I said, you can't keep pushing your dreams off just to satisfy what your parents wanted for you. Now he was making a good 6-figure income as a doctor, but he was so frustrated. And you know, a lot of times our parents want us to become doctors and attorneys and engineers like that because, you know, it shows that you're highly educated and they have a lot of prestige in society, right? You know, no parent wants to walk around and say, you know, my child's a garbage collector. And I'm not putting that down because what most people don't know, garbage men make a pretty good income nowadays. And so I'm not putting that down at all. You know, but if you're not going to be happy pursuing what your parents are making you gravitate to, you have to make some choices. And so, you know, you can't live your parents' life. You have to live your own. They're not living their parents' life. You know, a lot of you will hear your parents talking about, well, you know, my mama didn't like this or my daddy didn't like this, you know, but they chose to do something different, but then they try to tell you what to do. And I'm not saying be disobedient to your parents. I'm just saying when you're talking about pursuing your dreams, your goals, your visions, it has to be something that's inherent in you, right? And so, you know, not pursue something that our friends are pursuing. I mean, it's good that your associations have some visions and goals for their life, because if they don't, they're going to try to drag you down to that level. And so we have to make sure that everybody we associate with is trying to go somewhere forward in life. And I remember when I was in the 4th grade, I always hung with some older cousins, and I don't know why, because they always got in trouble. But it always seemed like we were getting in trouble together, but it was fun. Y'all follow what I'm saying? And so 2 brothers and one of them best friend, I was hanging with them one night, and because I would go spend the whole summer with them a lot of time. And they were going to these sisters' house, visit these girls' house. And me being an 8-year-old, I'm right there with them. And we get to the girls' house, and, you know, the 4 of us is just sitting there talking, and the parents were supposed to be gone for the night. And guess what happened a few minutes later? The parents came back home. And they say, y'all run out the side garage door. And because they're going to come through the front door. Well, guess what door they were coming through? And by me being the smallest and the youngest, I was the slowest. So I was the last one to get out the house. And the dad was standing there. But he didn't catch me because I was motivated to get out of there. And, you know, even though they didn't record it, I broke the world record in the 100-meter dash that night. But, you know, I was motivated. And see, a lot of us need to get motivated about what it is we say we want. And, you know, there are 2 reasons, one of 2 reasons we're motivated by something. We have the right reason, and then we have the real reason. You know, we can do things for all the right so-called reasons, but there's some inner drive in us that's making us do that. Y'all recognize that? You know, we can be motivated, you know, like I said, to get the weight off me, you know, because that's a new goal of mine, because I actually got on a weight loss program a few years ago. And, you know, I used to work a job years ago, and I used to just go to the drive-thru all day because I was going from account to account all day long. So I just go through the drive-thru and I just eat while I'm in the car. And so I put on weight. And, you know, so I had a goal to get the weight off. And, you know, we need to set goals for ourselves, but we need to be motivated to do something. You know, if the only grade you ever made in a class is C, you know, maybe motivate yourself to see if you can get a B for a change. B minus, I know B minus is not on the card, but, you know, try to get a B. You know, motivate yourself. You know, try to improve on something each day within yourself. You know, we're motivated to do some things. It kind of reminds me of when I first met my wife. And I used to work for a company, and I used to, you know, sell furniture. And our store never had the furniture in stock that I was selling. And so I would always call this other store, and this woman would always answer the phone. And I say, man, this woman sounds good on the phone. And y'all know how that normally works. You know, a woman like that normally has a good face for radio. And y'all missed that, huh? But I decided one night, I said, I'm going to go see what this woman looks like. And I said, well, if she's an attractive woman, I'm going to ask her out to dinner. If she's not attractive, I'm going to just say, I just want to see who I was talking to. And so I went there that night, and when I met her, I said, I didn't ask her. I told her, I said, I'll be back to take you to dinner tonight. I didn't ask her. I told her. And if you ever get the chance to meet my wife, you'll understand what I'm saying. She just, whatever, boy, you know. That's how she responded to me. And at the time, she was actually going out with a guy that lived in California, but that didn't matter to me. And when I found out she was dating him, I was motivated to get rid of him. So, you know, we have to make sure we have some proper motivation. You know, don't sit there and it could be negative or positive motivation. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, both motivations will require you to take some type of action. And so, you know, we look at the motivating factors in our life. We look at our dreams and goals. And you know, when we think about our associations, attitude and association is real important to me. Because our associations can keep us down. Y'all recognize that? They can really dampen our spirit daily. You know, and a lot of times our associations even live in the house with us. You know, but we're fighting a lot of things, as I mentioned earlier. Society's conditioning us to be mediocre. There's a book out there I read years ago titled Living Above the Level of Mediocrity. And when I read that book, my whole perspective on life changed. It's out of print now, but you can find that at a reseller. And but written by Chuck Swindoll. He's a preacher out of Dallas. But, you know, talking about living above the level of mediocrity. You know, society has us looking at, you know, everybody else that earns a lot of money. They're negative toward them. Have y'all noticed that? Unless they're an athlete or a celebrity, their people are frowned upon for making large incomes. Have y'all recognized that yet? You know, all you hear about is the evil business owners. Business owners, now, I'm not going to sit here and lie and tell you I think all business owners are morally upstanding. But for the most part, business owners are great people. They provide a service to the society, but they're abused and beat up on a lot of times. Why is it the only people that society says can have large incomes are actors and athletes? Do you realize you can make a lot of money doing some other things? You know, and so there are some things out there. You know, there's a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Are you guys familiar? Anybody in here familiar with that book? Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Yeah. Okay, read it. You know, it's probably not going to make a whole lot of sense because it's concentrated a lot on real estate, but grasp the business principles in there. That's what I want you to grasp. But as I mentioned earlier, if you don't read anything else, read The Magic of Thinking Big. Because once you read that book, your whole aspect on thinking is going to change about your life and your successful future. And that's real important. So do those type things. And, you know, start thinking of yourself as an eagle. How many of you realize eagles, when you see an eagle, it's always by itself? But when you see chickens, it's always a group of them. Have you ever seen an eagle hanging with a chicken? No. How many of you are hanging with chickens on a daily basis? Don't raise no hands back there. But, you know, eagles can fly at 40 to 50,000 feet. That's at the same height as the airplane you get on. And so eagles fly that high. It's the only bird in the bird kingdom that can fly that high. And it has an attitude that I'm going to be by itself. You'll never find an eagle flocking with a group. And you'll always find chickens together. So if you find yourself around chickens all the time, you might need to rethink your associations, you know, because you want to be eagles. You think about the lion. The lion is the king of the jungle for a reason. The lion is the king of the jungle because of his attitude. The elephant's bigger than the lion, but the lion eats the elephant because the elephant lives in fear of the lion because of the elephant's attitude. The giraffe is taller than the lion. The cheetah's faster than the lion. The hippopotamus is heavier than the lion, but the lion is the king. Have y'all ever thought about that? It's because of his attitude. Y'all notice y'all have never seen a lion and a tiger living in the same environment? Both of them are kings of their particular domain. So you'll never see them unless the closest you're going to see them together is in a zoo. Or if somebody captured one and put them together, because you can find that on YouTube where they put them together to fight each other. Y'all ever seen that? It's on there. You know, I like watching stuff like that. You know, it used to be a show that come on Animal Planet called Killing for a Living. And I actually I used to watch that show all the time. And, somebody actually told me in one of my sessions that, isn't that name just negative in itself? Killing for a living. I said, no, what it does show you is focus. Because when you, normally in killing for a living, you're seeing the big cats in the jungle. And they get their sights set on one particular species that they're going to eat. The rest of the group doesn't bother them. So it shows you laser-like focus. Because once they sneak up on that herd or flock or whatever, it doesn't matter how many other wildebeests or deer run in front of it, because it has laser-like focus on that one particular one that has been stalking the whole time. Now, if you don't remember anything else I said today, it's a word I want you to remember called choice. And we all have choices to make every day. We can choose to do things. It's just like we can say, when I grew up in my house, my parents were alcoholics, so that's why I'm an alcoholic. Do I need to repeat that? Okay, we can say, in the house I grew up in, my parents were alcoholics. So that's why I'm an alcoholic when you become an adult, or when you get to college. But you can say, because that's what I saw my parents do all the time, that's why I became an alcoholic. It makes sense that time? No? No?
No, I think they think what she's saying you are.
No, I'm not saying I was an alcoholic. No, I'm saying remember the word choice. You can choose to be an alcoholic because that's what your parents did. Or you can choose not to be an alcoholic because that's what your parents did. Does it make sense that way?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm just using alcohol as a reference point, but it could be anything. You can say, I choose to be a bum because I saw my parents be bums. Or you can say, I chose not to be a bum because my parents were bums. You can say, I chose to eat healthy foods because my parents ate healthy foods. Or I chose to eat healthy foods because my parents didn't eat healthy food. Y'all follow what I'm saying? So you always have the final decision and the final say-so in choice. We can't always control the circumstances around us, but we can control how we respond to them. And that's the most important thing. So we have a few minutes left, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to open it up for